Hello Proponomics people, and welcome to this week's 4 Pillars of Property Investment video. So if you haven't seen any videos in this series before, the 4 Pillars is a strategic framework that I put together and have developed over the years. The first concept of it actually came to me in 2016, the sort of first draft, and it's an iterative process, and I've hopefully improved it as things have gone along. So in my 4 pillars, which are the 4 parts that are of any property investment business or development business that I think you need to be successful, that then breaks down into 7 sub-pillars in each section. And of those 7 sub-pillars, 3 are entry level or accessible to pretty much anyone who wants to get into property, and the other 4 are more advanced. So we're still on pillar 1 at the moment, which is the supply pipeline, or deals in plain English, common parlance. And we've talked already about estate agents and auctions, but today's video is about sources. So these are the third place that I think anybody really can get deals from. And indeed, a lot of people who are trying to get into property often try to get into property via the route of sourcing property for other people, which makes sense because it can deliver money in the now if you get good at it and you put the work in. And ultimately, it is a case of following a process, trusting a process and getting results. It's not a case of listening to one of those gurus who wants to sell you a course and can make you rich overnight, because that simply just doesn't happen. And I wouldn't believe any case studies of anyone who says that they have done. They may have just gambled and got a great result. That would be the best thing that could have happened. Unfortunately, a lot of it is smoke mirrors and untruths. I'm sorry to report if you didn't already know that, but I'm sure you did. So anyway, back to today's subject, which is property sources. So sources, lots of people talk about having bad experiences with sources. I've had some bad experiences with sources. I've also had some fantastic experiences with them. So let's first of all define what I think a property sourcer is. And that is someone who finds property deals for other people and expects a monetary reward for doing so. That is commensurate in the deal with still making it a deal, or a fair return for the legwork that they're doing. Perhaps you're an overseas investor and you need someone on the ground in the UK who you can trust. And that's a service you're willing to pay for. To me, that makes an awful lot of sense. The hard bit is finding the people you can trust, of course, and that is the challenge that you face. For someone like me, who's built a portfolio by buying assets that are under some level of stress or below their full potential, let's say, and then making them up to their best and refinancing them and pulling the money back out, the momentum strategy, or the BRRR, as people prefer to call it these days for some reason that escapes me, sources can provide deals that are at a discount. And if you can be bothered to do the work that's in need, that the property needs in order to make it the best it can be, then you can ultimately reap the reward by refinancing and holding on to it. You could, of course, flip that property on if that was part of what you wanted to do. And we do and have done a very small amount of flipping stuff on. Generally speaking, we've acted to buy and hold property in the long term because that's when the really good returns and also some of the tax efficiency kicks in. So, sources, that's what they are. Where do they get deals from? People seem to have an incredible hang-up with property sources who have sourced deals on Rightmove. And I can't understand this for a second, to be honest with you, because if it was on Rightmove and you didn't see it and they did, and they've secured the deal, and that's a key part. Most people often who've been on some of the property sourcing courses don't understand how to secure deals properly or don't get stuff secured. People also get confused between a lead and a deal that's already packaged up. So a lead is simply, I've seen this one. Do you want to chat to the vendor or do you want to talk to the agent? Well, I'm unlikely to be wanting to pay thousands of pounds for that introduction. That wouldn't seem like a fair level of value has been added. When you've got a complex deal, sourcer needs to put a commensurate amount of work into that deal. I've had deals where, in fact, we've paid fees. The highest we've ever paid on a portfolio is £100,000 in fees. So if you're anyone who's ever paid a bigger sourcing fee than that, please let me know in the comments. And we paid that with a smile on our face because ultimately there was more than £100,000 of profit in the back end of that deal. That was a good solid deal. Took a lot of work to get it done and there were problems. And it was one I'll do a case study video on at some point, I'm sure. But that's the biggest fee we've paid. We've also paid as little as £500 when someone has done exactly that, passed us on a lead rather than a deal. And sometimes, instead, I've been in a situation where I've been with people who said, oh, okay, well, here's a deal, but also I want to listen to you negotiate. I want to be a part of the process. I want to do all the rest of it. In which I normally say to them in the nicest possible way, look, you can have one or the other. But if you are going to try and listen in to some strategy and tactics that have taken me years and years to build up, and I've spent tens of thousands of pounds on personal development in order to learn how to do, then you can have that if you want, but you're not having a fee on top as well. That's too much. I don't like sharing some of the cleverer stuff that we've done because obviously that's where a lot of our edge lies. Although I don't mind sharing the general case studies when they've already happened, because ultimately every case is different. And that's why you need to develop that generalist skill set. So I see sources as people that you need to build a relationship with. I think you need to take it absolutely as seriously as anybody you do business with. If you think there aren't serious sources out there, you're kidding yourselves. You just haven't done the legwork to find them yet, I'm afraid. So I have as one of my KPIs every month to have 2 new sourcer conversations, 2-way conversations with people. I achieve a lot of that through LinkedIn. There's no sort of incredibly clever smoke and mirrors there. Talk to new sources. And one of the best results I ever had from that was the first deal that someone put in front of me was a deal that we managed to buy at about 53% of its full value. And it was a 7-figure deal. So there was a huge amount of profit in there. And that came about because I was prospecting for sources on LinkedIn and have a way of taking them through a process. Now, like anything, like property deals itself, if you're going to look on Rightmove, you have to kiss a lot of frogs. If you're not expecting not to buy 98+% of what gets put in front of you, then your expectations are wrong, I'm afraid, in terms of property deals in general, if you're looking to deploy funds and get genuine discounts below market value. That is the number that you have to deal with. And there's, this game is full of rejections. And there's a great book, Go for No, which talks about how hard you should negotiate on things. And I'd absolutely encourage people to do that. But why would you use a sourcer? Well, of course, if you've got a good bank of sourcers, then they can do more than you can on your own. It's actually might well be cheaper than employing people to do the same thing. So perhaps have a think about that as well. What does a good source deal look like? Well, it should have realistic numbers. It should have realistic growth prospects. And you should understand why you're paying the sourcer. If you're listening to this video and you've got a nice 6-figure income coming in, doing something, living in the UK or abroad, why doesn't it make sense to pay someone £3,000, £5,000, £6,000, £8,000? If the deal is right, why doesn't it make sense to do that? Because your time ultimately is more valuable and it's better spent doing what you do to up that already considerable 6-figure income, or have some downtime, have a bit of a break rather than trying to do it all yourself. And now property tends to be populated by 2 particular kinds of people. One of them is control freaks, a little bit like me, and another one is creators, a little bit like me. So that's why I'm kind of pretty happy in this space, because I'm both of those things, which is quite rare. You're normally one or the other. But I've learned how to control and harness and use those things for my benefit rather than them be a problem or a detraction to my business. So I think finding sources, meeting sources, what does a good sourcing deal look like? Like I said, it's got the numbers, it's got packaged, it's got transparency, it's got a fair price attached to it. The price doesn't break the deal. The price is commensurate to the amount of work that's gone in. Not just necessarily in that deal, but it might have been, the sourcer might have done 20, 30, 40, 50 viewings. They might have looked at 500 or 1,000 properties online before they found that deal. So put that into context before you're worrying about the amount you're paying them. My personal tip here would be pay them with a smile on your face, because that's the best way. So that's my thoughts on sources. I hope that's helpful.